In this week's video, we will visit what I think is one of the best social history museums in London. Hello and welcome to Through Lucy's Lens, weekly videos where I go somewhere interesting and hopefully you will find them interesting too. My name's Lucy, I'm a social historian and I'm interested in the history of people, not politics. I'm at a fascinating place today and I wanted to bring it to you. There's very few people here, but if you love social history and you're in the area and you're in London, you need to come here. You need to come to the Ragged School Museum near Mile End. Let's go. The Ragged School Museum sits in what was once a densely populated part of London's East End, close to the docks, factories and workshops that shaped daily life in the 19th century. This was an area defined by work, movement and poverty, but also by community and resilience. Families lived close together, children went to work early, education, where it existed at all, had to fit around labour. This building itself began life as a warehouse and was later converted, opening in 1877 as the Copperfield Road Ragged School, one of the largest free schools in London. It was established by Dr Thomas Barnardo, whose work in the East End had already drawn national attention. It's now a wonderful museum and I think one of the best off-the-beaten-track museums in the capital city. Ragged schools existed long before education became compulsory. They were voluntary institutions set up to provide basic education, reading, writing and arithmetic, to children who were excluded from fee-paying schools. Attendance by the children was often irregular and often short-lived. Children came here when they could, and then they left when work or family responsibilities intervened. This building, it's important to note, was not a home. This really matters because children did not live here. They would arrive daily from overcrowded housing, lodging, workshops and streets, and they would return to this same environment at the end of the day. Bernardo originally came to London intending to train as a doctor. What he then encountered in London's East End redirected his life's work. He was confronted by the scale of child poverty, lack of schooling and high rates of illness and mortality. His response was not unique, but it was organised, persistent and highly visible. As you enter the museum, you're confronted by a wall of photographs. These images show children connected to Bernardo's work, some through schools like this one, others through his wider network of homes. What is immediately striking is how young so many of them are and how diverse. Many of these children sadly did not live into adulthood. These photographs are difficult to look at, and the museum is careful in how it presents them. Much of the detailed information about these children is not displayed openly. It is, however, available to those who ask. Child mortality in the East End of London was high. Disease, poor housing, dangerous work and limited medical care meant that many children died young. These photographs were not intended as memorials. They exist because these children were present, recorded and acknowledged in a system that often overlooked them entirely. While I was visiting, there was a modern group of school children moving through the museum at the same time. Their voices, the children talking, laughing, asking questions filled the space, and it felt really appropriate because this building continues to function as a place of learning, which is exactly what it was built for. One of the central themes of the museum is the long fight for free education for all. In the 19th century, most schooling was paid for. Ragged schools removed that barrier, but they were never really a final solution to education for all. Reports produced by the Ragged School Union and others repeatedly stressed that voluntary education could not meet the scale of need. These schools demonstrated demand. They showed that children would attend if education was accessible. That evidence fed directly into political change. The 1870 Education Act, which introduced education for all children, did not emerge in isolation. It was shaped by decades of experimentation and pressure, much of it generated by institutions like this one. There are still classrooms here, and they're plain by design. The benches are close together, and teaching here was direct and practical. Children still pile in this room today to receive rote lessons in a Victorian style. Many children would arrive here tired from work. Lessons often fitted into early mornings or evenings. Discipline existed, but attendance could not be enforced. Teachers understood that the children would simply stop coming if they felt humiliated or excluded. Respect, therefore, was not only a moral stance, it was a necessity. Henry Mayhew, writing in London Labour and the London Poor, noted that for many working children, schools like this were the first places where they were spoken to patiently rather than suspiciously. That must have felt wonderful. Bernardo's work is often discussed in terms of rescue, but the reality, I think, was more complex. He was notable for refusing to exclude children on the basis of disability, chronic illness, or perceived incapacity. Contemporary institutions frequently turned such children away, but Bernardo's records show that they were accepted into his schools and homes. He also made efforts to keep siblings together wherever possible, which ran counter to common institutional practice at the time. His work, however, was not without controversy, and later critics have rightly raised questions about power, authority, and institutional life. But in the context of 19th century social provision, his approach was comparatively inclusive. There are documented examples of children who passed through Bernardo's schools and who went on to have stable adult lives. One such case is Jim Jarvis, a former Bernardo boy who became a trade union organiser and Labour politician, eventually serving as a Member of Parliament in the 20th century. His education didn't, of course, guarantee success, but it made participation possible. More broadly, tens of thousands of children gained basic literacy and numeracy through institutions like this. Some entered skilled trades, others found more secure employment than their parents had known. The final section of the museum is an art installation based on a brushmaker's house. This blew my mind and I thought it was wonderful. A black and white photograph brought to life. The artist has kept the shades of black and grayscale in the reproduction to recreate the photograph. Brushmaking like this was hard work and often done at home, with entire families involved. The children that attended schools like this would have worked at home with their parents and come to a school like this to receive their education. The installation is here to remind us that education did not exist separately from daily life. It was fitted around it. What the Ragged School does particularly well is resist reducing this history to suffering alone. Hardship, of course, is present and unavoidable, but it's not the whole story. These schools existed because people identified a problem and they attempted to address it within the limits of their time. Children chose to attend. Adults volunteered their time, money and labour. Communities organised education before the state accepted responsibility for it. This is a small museum, probably just a morning or an afternoon, but it tells a massive story. Not just about poverty, but about access, effort, and the slow recognition that education should not depend on circumstances. The legacy of the museum continues today, and it's one of the reasons this place still feels so alive. I had the pleasure, quite by accident, of chatting to the museum's director, a person so passionate about the legacy and work of this museum, which will only survive if we visit and keep the story of such institutions alive. As a side note, there is a wonderful cafe in the basement, right on the canal, serving fabulous coffee and light bites. Highly recommended for sitting and reflecting after your visit here. Sipping my coffee, my head was buzzing and full of ideas. And I couldn't help reflect how lucky I was to be afforded an education and the space and privilege to play and have a childhood. I actually didn't like school. I found it restrictive and I wasn't brilliant at the unwritten social rules of such places. But how fortunate was I to have the opportunity. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I'm still here at the Ragged School and obviously I haven't edited it yet, but I've been walking around a lot, reflecting, had a little cry, that wall at the beginning, and I've just been thinking, there needs to be more places like this. There needs to be more places like this where we can celebrate those ancestors that struggled, that didn't always survive. Because it's the sort of history I love, and I know if you tune into this channel, you love it too. Hardest part is going to be making it light. Should I make it light? The story needs to be told, right? We don't want to wash history away. Let me know what you think in the comments anyway. As always, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to spend my annual leave going around places like this and bringing them to you. My dreams are still coming true. Please like, comment, do all that stuff that I find insufferable, but that's YouTube, isn't it? We've got to do it. We've got to do it because without it, nothing moves forward. Like history, we have to keep going forward. Anyway, I'll see you later. Next week, week after. I don't know. This place has frazzled my brain. See you later. Bye.